I'm super excited because we're going to take a short detour. What we're talking about is marketing and branding using your website. Now, I'm super fortunate to have my great friend and somebody that I look up to very much, Chase Jarvis, join us for a short conversation. Chase, please come in. Give us a so excited. I feel bad because I totally put him on the spot, and I was just like, hey, I totally know you're swamped with work, but if you get 5 or 10 minutes, come and hang out. And he was wonderful, and so I feel honored to have you here.
It didn't really go down like that.
No, I'm really happy to have you here. And prior to us getting into questions, the goal for this conversation is validation. That's really what it's coming down to. Subscribing to the same ideology. A person that I looked to when I got into wedding photography, because when I got to that point yesterday, I talked about how I looked at my images and I felt I needed to change. I started looking in different genres of photography. One of the people that stood out in the commercial world was Chase. And what he was doing and what made him different, all about the idea of being different, was that he was sharing information freely, posting up these rad videos. One of the first videos I saw of him, he was in Hawaii, talking to his computer, talking about the shoot that he did. He was raw, unedited, and I was like, you could do that?
Unshowered.
Unshowered.
Kind of like right now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, thank God you can't smell on the internet. Right. Yeah, no. So when I saw him doing that, I looked to him and I felt there is somebody who's giving me permission to be me, raw and edited, and to share when people might not share. So if you want to speak a little bit into that, or what started?
I've liked a lot of the things I've been watching when I've been able to. This morning I've been paying attention for a little bit, and I had a wireless signal up at the up in the mountains for about at the lodge for about 45 minutes yesterday. So I was able to catch a little bit.
He was on a shoot yesterday. So.
And I've liked several things. One of the things that I think it's maybe appropriate because we're both here in the same room is to talk about to dispel the idea that photographers hate one another, and to dispel the idea that that the idea of keeping secrets is still alive. I believe we're deteriorating that horrible, that old understanding of what it meant to be a photographer. We're eroding the negative aspects of protecting information, and have an open conversation. And like what you're doing with branding and all that stuff is very, very important. Differentiation. I'm happy to talk about any of that stuff, girlfriend. This is you. I'm here. What do you want to talk about?
Well, basically, it was just to use other people who might not be familiar, because clearly, I know who you represent in your industry. For people who are watching, it's a wedding conversation, and I know that the audience is primarily wedding and portrait photographers.
Got it.
And for other people, to expose you to a new audience, and if you had a piece of advice for people who are between 1 and 3 years, and you're saying what to this different new set of groups of people saying?
Well, I think that the opportunity for differentiation is many and myriad, and I believe that the industry or the people that are participating in industry, especially ones that are newer to arrive, they believe that it's more and more difficult to differentiate yourself. That under a common set of circumstances or under a common wisdom, I believe that would be the case. However, what we have now more than ever before is tools and opportunities to differentiate ourselves. We have our own platforms. We're talking about, she's talking about our blog site here, and you can talk about the ways to express yourself via Twitter. The fact that you can create something and share it without permission for anybody is that in and of itself is a platform for differentiation that hasn't existed before. And more than anything, I think that is how to stand out in a crowd, is by, one, your work needs to differentiate, but also your marketing mechanisms. And the irony, I think people think I'm good at getting my stuff out there, my marketing message. I don't think of myself necessarily as a good marketer because I don't do anything that is traditional. I don't do direct mailers. And this is, again, don't take this as advice. I'm not saying this is the right way of doing it, but I don't do any of those, or I do very, very few of those traditional mechanisms. What I hope that means, because I have been able to create a large collection, a large community online, is that I'm an example of being different actually working. And when I think about being different, there's a million ways to do it. One is, and you do it so well. I'm actually I'm now the student again. And what you've done is let your personality shine through. I talk about making pictures that no one else in the world can make besides you, being able to, like, if there's a picture that anyone could walk down the street and take, then it probably shouldn't be in your book. And the same thing, like, if that is a mechanism for differentiating your work, why not use that or apply that to your marketing principles? Like, you have to be saying and doing things that nobody else in the world could say or do. And since we're all unique people, you realize then that means that the primary source of that is what's in here. And ain't nobody doing it better than she is right now, especially in your space. So
I have to say that it's what is it, like a rain effect, or what do they call it? A snowball effect. So what you gave me permission to do was be myself in my area, but I'll never forget a few months ago you posted a blog post about a print campaign you did for Lululemon, and you gave people the option between picture A and picture B, strongly backlit and less backlit. And you dissected both the images, what the client chose, what you would have chosen. That breakdown, that dissemination of knowledge, the free nature of saying, this is how I do it, this is how I roll, you like it, you don't like it, this is what the client liked, this is what I liked, and everybody had an opinion about it. That forum is setting a new standard in the industry, and I think that we're both saying the same thing, is being different is far better than being the best.
yeah, and then look, like, what I was actually doing is talking. This is what I mean about your own experiences as an opportunity for differentiation, because there wasn't any other photographer in the world shooting that Lululemon campaign. It was me. And I had permission from the client to talk about it, and talked about the actual decisions that were going on. And it's not necessarily whether or not the minutiae or the details were important. It's the fact that I was able to have a conversation that has never happened before. We wrestled for days and days on the two pictures, which one was going to be a part of the campaign and which wasn't. And there's a million of those things, and that was an opportunity for me to share something and to get traction and to share a voice, and also to learn a whole bunch from the myriad of voices that came in, and essentially trying, like you said, giving permission is not the right thing, because that sounds like I'm the permission giver, but that I'm willing to put it out there and take the heat if it goes poorly the first time around.
Two things, I think there's two sub-stories to what Chase said. So what I was talking about as readers, so I'm not necessarily a client of Chase, but my interaction and the dynamic on his blog, he talks about a lot of different shoots. Why did the Lululemon shoot resonate with me? If you guys follow my blog, I'm a customer. I love it. I liked Chase more because he shot the clothes I wear. What can we do and apply that in our market? What can we put out of ourselves to educate clients, to make them feel an affinity for us? We're going to talk about repelling or connecting. He's giving people the opportunity to like him more, to like him less, and he doesn't give a rip. That's great. Another thing too, go ahead.
Those are things that I'm actually interested in, things that I actually care about. And one of the struggles that I have with our industry, if I am going to try and identify them, is everybody looking at everybody else trying to do what they're doing.
Right.
Rather than looking at what it is that interests them. And I'm dumb enough to not look left and right, and just to look at the things that are motivating me on a regular basis, and things that I feel like are legitimate challenges that I have, legitimate struggles, and legitimate things that are exciting to me.
Okay, speaking of things that are exciting to him, we just have like a few more minutes because I can't get too far off track, but we could talk all day.
I'm so good at
we
getting people
think,
off track.
we can just like chat it on up. Okay, but one thing too, again, this idea, and Chase doesn't call it giving permission. Maybe I'm like a fan of authority. Oh, he's giving me permission. I call it giving me permission. Because there's somebody who is in a different industry, who has a larger network, who has a larger umbrella, is saying and doing something. Recently, he shot a campaign, if I'm not mistaken, for REI, and you guys were in Colorado.
Yeah, that was just 2 weeks ago now.
2 weeks ago. But what he did was he posted a daily diary, 6 days of the things that went right, his planning, the things that went wrong, what they ate for dinner, what they drank. I am not a commercial photographer, and yet I was intrigued. I was intrigued because of two elements. I love reality television, and there he was, posting pictures of what he drank. I was like, oh, fun. I don't think I'll ever get into that industry. But what did I do with that? And said, how can I do that in my industry? because there's so much more planning for his shoots than what we do for our shoots, because that responsibility is broken up into a myriad of people. He becomes the executor, the doer, the end product, finisher, the whole thing. I then, after seeing his day, I followed day 1, 2, and 3, and then I followed later, but after day 3, I'm like, how can I do this in my industry? And then I wrote a blog post called The Anatomy of a Wedding Day, where I talked about what I planned out the night before and what our planning looked the day of. Totally not half as cool as like drinking in the Alps, but you know, it's like, oh, I'm at the most expensive city in the world today, and I'm like, I'm in my house packing up my bag. Not as cool, but it was applicable to my follower. It was me. It was me, and
I am the coolest city in the world, and you are. You're out. It's not fair how you categorize that. But
either way,
I think your point is a valid one, and if I'm gonna. I want to touch one more second here on
and close it up.
On the permission thing. Again, I don't feel like I think I'm trying to inspire, but not for the sake of trying to inspire. I'm trying to shake things up for myself, and even you can look at what I was trying to do with mobile photography is I took pictures with my iPhone. Long before it was cool to do so. It was 2 megapixels. No one was talking about the camera, but it gave me freedom. I liked it. I didn't care that the press was trashing these little phone cameras, and I started thinking, wait a minute, what if we got 5 billion cell phones? What if everyone started thinking of them as a camera? What an interesting world it would be. And just, I went very much against what the industry and the standard was, and said, you know what, I don't care what anyone says, I like this. I can take a picture of the cookies while I'm waiting in line for my coffee, and I feel like I'm engaged. I feel like I'm being creative. By putting out the first book of iPhone pictures, what I wasn't doing was trying to make some grandiose statement. I was doing something saying this changed me. Right. What it did do is put a stake in the ground that was a validator for mobile photography, and it was one of the prime movers, I think, that helped that get going. The point is that it started and was important to me. And what you do when you're sitting at home talking about the anatomy of a wedding shoot is that's what you wake up thinking about. And all you're doing is sharing a part of you. And when you think about who you are and who your brand is, those things should be like this. And what I see out there too much is this. This is what I eat for breakfast, and this is what I want to pretend I am. And like, the closer you can move those two things together, the stronger your brand will be, and the more connections that I believe you'll be able to make in business and in life.
So we're officially done for the day. I can't compete with that. That's my whole workshop. Thank you.
You guys are
He's
in good.
The best.
You guys are in good hands.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you being here.
Can we give her a clap for one of those? How good is this? You know? See, they hoot.
I got a woo.
Get back to business.